I've worked in financial aid for 17, 18 years. If you're doing the math, I started when I was 12. I love this stuff, and we've had some really exciting changes this year that are going to be great for students. So I'm really glad you guys came because there's going to be a lot of confusion, I think, and I just want to make sure that you guys are my army and you can answer all these questions when your friends say, no, we're supposed to do it this way. Are you guys, do we have all seniors here? Do we have any juniors? Do we have any sophomore or freshmen? Any pre-winners? Okay, so a little mix there. This presentation follows this green pink for college book, so we're going to cover a lot of territory in a short amount of time. So when you leave here, if you think, I can't remember what Nikki said, she said so much, this has a lot more information on it for you to check into. So I'm sure you guys have all started looking for colleges, looking at campuses, anyone looking at that price tag and feeling a little tightness in your chest, a little anxiety. I have 3 stepchildren, believe me, I've been through this process. I felt the same way, but financial aid is there to help you pay for school, okay? So there's really 2 types of financial aid. There's merit-based aid that we talked about a little bit earlier. You know, I like to call it the what's cool about you scholarships. That is like if you get good grades, or maybe you're a great musician, or a great actor, something that you've done really well that the admissions office is going to award some money to you based on. So that's going to come early in the process. But then there's also need-based aid, and that's sort of where I live. Where we look at a family's finances, how many people live in the household, and we try to see what your financial need is. So that's what we're going to talk a lot about. The first step in this process is to file a FAFSA. I'm going to explain what that all means. It's an online application. Has anyone done a FAFSA before? So we've got some experts here. Awesome. Everyone should do this. I want every single senior to file a FAFSA this year. So if you know someone that says, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to be eligible for any aid, or those kids that think I'm going to go into the military, or I'm going to stay at home, I'm going to work for a year, then I'm going to go to school. I want every single senior to do this. Sometimes scholarship applications will ask for the results of your FAFSA, or B, to even get a federal loan, which if you have to borrow is the best way to go, you have to do the FAFSA. But most importantly, what I like to say is FAFSA loans are ringing off the hook right now. School just started, colleges just started. A lot of those kids that said, you know, I'm going to go into the military. I don't know if you guys know any 18-year-olds that changed their mind at the last minute, but we get a lot of those calls. And when those people change their mind at the last minute, they've already missed a lot of deadlines. They've lost a lot of money, a lot of free money, that if they just would have applied, done this free application, spent half an hour doing it, they would have been eligible for a lot of aid. So I just hate to see anyone miss out. We're just going to have all the seniors do the FAFSA, just to make me happy. That'd be great. So as you guys start looking at colleges, it's sort of hard to say, you know, I really like this school, but how do I know if they're going to give me enough financial aid to go to the school? Every college is required to have what's called a net price calculator on their website. And what this is like a financial aid dry run. Okay, they're going to ask a lot of the questions that are on the FAFSA application, like how many people live in your household, what is your income? They're going to ask about grades and SAT scores like we were talking about earlier. Then when you hit submit, they're going to give you an estimate about how much financial aid you can get if you go to the school. What I love about this is you guys can play with this. You cannot break it. Okay, go back in and say, you know, what if I tried a little bit harder? Or what if I took SATs again? Would that help me at all? Well, as you could see from the slide earlier, UMaine, that makes a huge difference with that merit aid, right? I did this, I played around on University of Maine Presque Isles net price calculator, and I brought my grades up a little the second time, and I got an extra $2,000 in a scholarship for bringing my grades up. So would anyone here bring up their grades for $2,000? I mean, I would, for sure. So, I mean, definitely worth playing with it to see. And also to see, you know, if this school is going to be affordable. A lot of those schools that you're looking at, you may see this price tag and you think, I will never be able to afford this school, but a lot of times the schools that cost a lot have really great financial aid. So I'd love to see you at least apply for, I like to say apply to 5 schools. I'll take 3. Just so you guys have some options, and go for that expensive school because they may end up being the least expensive school because they have great financial aid. Deadlines are going to be so important to this senior class and the juniors too, because I feel like in the next few years deadlines are going to change. So as you guys start looking at colleges, in this Paying for College book, we put up a worksheet to say what deadlines should I be looking for. Well, you want to know when you need to apply for admissions, or what is their financial aid priority deadline. That means when should you file the FAFSA? Because at a certain point, if you file the FAFSA after that point, they're not going to consider you for some aid. Okay. So look at all those. This kind of gives you the list of what should I be asking when I go to school, what are the deadlines I should be watching for, but really, if you're looking at 3 colleges, these deadlines are going to sort of blur together. So it's really important to stay on top of that. I hate to see anyone miss free money just because they applied late. And when I said your deadlines are going to change, there's been some changes in the financial aid timeline that I'm going to talk about. But the deadlines that you're going to see right now are probably going to change while you're in college. So it's really important that the students know that you guys are going to be the ones that are going to have to watch for this, because the school is not going to say, hey, we changed our deadline to parents. They're going to tell the students. So keep an eye on that. Also find out what are they going to ask you to do. You know that they're going to ask you to do the FAFSA, but they may also ask for the CSS profile. There's only 3 schools in Maine that ask for this. It's Colby, Bates, and Bowdoin that I'm aware of. And basically what that means is it's kind of like the FAFSA, but they go a little bit deeper. It means that they have a lot of financial aid to give away, and they want to make sure that they are giving it to the right people. So when I went through this process with my stepdaughter, I called, the college board actually owns this product. I called their help desk just to see what it was like, and they have amazing customer service. So if you get stuck on this application, give them a call. They also have a really nice video on how to do the application on their website. Who is looking for scholarships here? Everybody in this room. Oh, tonight's a win. No matter what else happens tonight, this is awesome. Pay my name. There's not one thing that pays that bill, right? When you're looking at paying a bill, there's a series of things that are going to help pay: scholarships, grants, loans, savings. Scholarships are free money. Apply for them as many as you can. Never pay for a scholarship search. FameMaine.com has a lot of Maine-based scholarships. There's a scholarship process here at the school. I don't know if you want to touch on that. Yeah, oh, okay, at the end. So this is a great source here to look for scholarships. On page, I think it's 7 of that green Paying for College, there's some search engines where you plug in your information and say, you know, I'm a redheaded kid from Fort Fairfield and I'm interested in business. And this search engine is going to find you scholarships that you guys can apply for. But what I say about this is when I did this for my stepdaughter, it just was overwhelming. My inbox was just flooded. Do 2 a week. Give me half an hour a week. Maybe you don't do the dishes on Tuesday. If you guys spend 5 hours doing this and you get 1 scholarship for $500, you just made $100 an hour, which is pretty great, right? As high school seniors, juniors, sophomores, there's no age limit for scholarships. There's a lot out there for every age group, but high school seniors have more scholarships than any other age group, okay? So just keep in mind that you will not have this opportunity again to have this many scholarships to apply for. I totally stole this spreadsheet from a student who was so organized. She found a bunch of scholarships that had already passed, but she could apply for them next year, so she made a list to say, next year I'm going to apply for the scholarship. But do whatever works for you. You can put a reminder on your phone, or maybe there's a calendar. But just go ahead and apply for those scholarships. It's so worthwhile. So this is a very weird slide, because you guys don't have 10 years to start saving for college. Maybe you already have them, which is awesome. But what I want you to realize is that next July, your fall bill is going to come. And that's not what I want you to start thinking about savings, because if you have to start coming up with some money, I'd rather have you start now saving where you might get a little bit of interest on that rather than borrowing and paying interest and fees on that money you're borrowing. So basically, every dollar that you save right now is one that you don't have to borrow later and pay interest and fees on. So totally worthwhile. I'd love to see my students, please start saving if you guys are working. I love the rule of thirds where you take a third of your paycheck, put it in a college savings, because you know you're going to need money for pizza, books, gas, transportation, all of these things. Use a third of it for your bills and a third for your walking around money. So please start saving now. You guys know you have a bad gift giver in your family, because I'm that person. Tell them you set up a college savings account, and instead of getting you an awful gift, maybe you'll word it better than that, say, why don't you put some money in my college savings account instead of giving me a birthday present this year? It takes the heat off them and it gets you some college money. So, save away. Okay, so one of the things you guys can start to do now, this is new as of last year, so if it's been a few years since you filed a FAFSA, this is new. To get into the FAFSA website, you need what's called an FSA ID, the Federal Student Aid Identification. And what that is, a student will need one in order to get into the FAFSA application. This is their log-on credentials. This is their electronic signature for signing any sort of federal paperwork. So if you want to take out a student loan, you need this ID to sign your paperwork online, okay? So the website is there. Every student will need one, and every dependent parent will need one as well. We just need one parent to have one, because the FAFSA needs to be signed, electronically signed by a parent as well. So a student's going to need one, the parent's going to need one, okay? We created this tracking worksheet. There's a bunch of them on the table out there. What we found in the last year is the biggest issue people had were that they were not writing it down. So remember that you're going to need this ID for the next 2, 4, 6 years that you are in college and apply for financial aid, because you're going to need this next year. You're probably not going to remember a user ID or password that you set up a year ago, and don't use it in between. So write everything down, case sensitive. While you're doing this application, go slow. I see a lot of people go through this super fast. They don't write everything down. And then when it goes to file the FAFSA, there's a problem when they can't do the application. It brings the anxiety level way up. So take your time, fill out the worksheet, put that someplace safe. So not face up in your car, because if someone gets this information, they have access to the last 4 digits of your social security number and your date of birth. So we want to make sure that no one else can get that. So write it down and put it someplace safe, someplace where you know it's going to be next year when you go to do your FAFSA. So this is what the FSA ID website looks like. And if you can see up here, there's a tab that says Create an FSA ID. And then there's one behind it, it's kind of hidden, that says Edit My FSA ID. So if you guys get locked out, Edit My FSA ID is where you'll go. But what I really like about this is that they're going to ask you to use an email address to be associated with your ID, okay? You don't necessarily have to use an email address with this. You can skip this and just set up username and password. But if you guys get locked out, if you try several times to use your ID and it doesn't work and you get locked out, if there's an email account associated with this, they can email you a secure code and you can unlock your FAFSA, reset your password, and use your FSA ID immediately. If you do not have an email address when you sign up, or if you don't ever add one to it, you can do that too. You have to answer challenge questions. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm terrible at challenge questions. If you get them right, and I usually don't, you have to wait 30 minutes in order to use that FSA ID. So if you're getting ready to file for aid, it doesn't work, you have to reset your password, you're going to have to wait for half an hour. So for people who say, I have a lot of parents who say, I don't have an email address, I don't do computers, you can go set up an email address with Google. It takes 5 minutes and it's free. I would highly recommend doing this, just for ease of access if something should happen. Do they lose their high school email addresses after graduation, or do they keep them forever? Okay. Okay, so you should not use your high school email address when you set this up, my students, because after graduation you'll lose that email address. But this is a great time to set up a professional email address. When I worked with financial aid, all the time we would get really interesting email addresses, and I can tell you I found it hilarious if we got like bootylicious17 at AOL. But the scholarship committee that you were using may not find that as funny. So great time to set up a professional email address. Use that for your application for admissions, this ID process. It's good stuff. Another great thing about this that you should do is there's a little box here that says show text. You know when you do a password, it's all dots and you can't see what you're doing? Every time you see show text, click on that because people will set up a password and they'll do a typo, and that typo is your password. So if you can see what you're writing, it's super helpful, especially when you are entering your social security number. Because if you get that wrong, it's a mess to try to untangle that. So if you can see your social when you're typing it in, super helpful. So this is what the FAFSA website looks like. It's FAFSA.gov, and the emphasis here is on free. It's a free application for federal student aid. That's what FAFSA stands for. This is an online application. Usually takes about half an hour. It's a one-time application. You list all the schools you're interested in, and when you hit submit, your information gets sent to all of them electronically. If you want to add a school later, you absolutely can do this, okay? Every year that you are planning on being in school, you should apply. A lot of people think, I'm going to do this once, I'm golden, I'm good for the rest of my school career. This is something you do every single year. So exciting changes. I know that was kind of a teaser. In the past, when you guys have done a FAFSA before, so let's say last year's high school seniors, the FAFSA application didn't become available until January 1st every single year. So New Year's Day, everyone was doing their FAFSA. That was my dream anyway. Everyone was applying because we want you to apply as early as possible. So January 1, people were doing their FAFSA. It takes financial aid offices a while to get all the FAFSAs in, get the software updated, get all the budgets, find out how much aid we're giving out. But then it would be February, March, or April before you would get what's called an award letter. So the award letter is the school saying, if you come here, this is how much money we're going to be able to give you, or an estimate. So the problem with this is that if you didn't get an award letter as a senior until April, and you had to make a decision on what college you're going to on May 1st, that's like a 1-month window. I mean, that is a wicked short amount of time to make the second most expensive decision of your life. So imagine trying to buy a house in like 1 month. That would be super stressful. And what if it just wasn't going to work out? You couldn't afford going there. You need more time to be able to have another choice. So the federal government said last year, we're going to move that FAFSA open date to October 1st. So high school seniors, just my seniors, and on October 1st, the FAFSA website is going to open for you. So this is new this year. This is the first time this has ever happened, okay? You're going to do your application. Here's another big change, which is probably the best change of all. January 1st, you would do your FAFSA, and they'd ask for 2015 tax information. Who has taxes done January 1st? No one, right? Not a person. So what they'd have to do is estimate your information. Once you remembered, if you would remember, you'd have to go back in and update it after your taxes were done. This led to incredible anxiety for people doing this. They would do it incorrectly. A lot of times it would lead to issues with students who couldn't get their paperwork into the financial aid office on time. So what they did is they said, we're going to use, in October, the FAFSA, my seniors in this room are going to file, we're using 2015 tax information again, okay? So if anyone in this room filed a FAFSA in January for another student who's in college right now, you're going to use the same tax information on 2 different FAFSAs, and that's going to seem weird. This is the only year this is going to happen. So from here on out, what they're going to ask for is taxes that have already been sent to the IRS God willing, I hope everyone's got their taxes done by now. Somebody may have done an extension, which is fine, but for many people, this is going to be a lot smoother. The reason this is going to be a lot smoother is when you're in the FAFSA application and you say, I already filed my tax returns, they're going to say, hey, let's link out to the IRS and let's go get your tax information and pull that in. This is called IRS data retrieval. Do this because this is going to save you time. It's going to put the information in exactly where it's supposed to be. It's going to be correct. There's so many benefits to this, I can't tell you. You're going to be able to do your FAFSA once and done. So this is big improvements with the FAFSA this year. So what I will tell you about when you link out to the IRS website, if you're going to go do your FAFSA, have a copy of your tax returns with you as you do this. Because when you link out to the IRS, they're going to say, what is the address on your tax returns? And I can tell you, for those people who have never moved, this doesn't seem like a big deal. But then very few people get this right. And I can tell you, I worked with a gentleman whose accountant had a typo on his address. The street that he lived on was a typo. Could not get this IRS data to work. We had to enter the typo in to get it to pull over. So just have your taxes handy when you go to file the FAFSA, because this will make it so much easier for you. And enter your address in exactly as it's listed on the tax return, because that's what the IRS has on file for you. Okay, so another thing, advice I'd give you is when you're doing this, a lot of parents were in the driver's seat. When we go to start the FAFSA, remember the student is the applicant. So we need to have the student's FSA ID in order to get into the application. So if I'm Nikki, stepmom, and I go to do my stepson's application, I have to enter his information, otherwise it looks like I'm applying for aid. So this is the student's application. It's hard to remember that because a lot of times we're doing this as parents, but make sure that you use the student information. So they're going to ask for information about parents for most students. They're going to ask about up to 2 parents on the FAFSA, okay? I have 3 stepchildren, and my stepkids have 4 parents total, which is a lot of parents, I'm sure. But there's only room for 2 on the FAFSA, so which parents do we include? What they're looking for is the parent the student lives with the most during the year, okay? And we had split custody, had them right down the middle. We had to look at it to see, who do they really spend more time with? And it was their mom. So my stepchildren's mother and her husband are on their FAFSA. Does that make sense? There's a lot of situations. If you have questions when you're on the FAFSA and you're not sure who to list, there on the right-hand side, there's helps and hints that'll tell you exactly what they're looking for. So I put your cursor in that question, and it'll really smooth things out for you. So the FAFSA is not going to ask everyone in this room the same kind of questions. If your income is above a certain amount, they may ask about assets. So they may ask about your cash checking and savings balances, or if you have any properties other than your house. There's a lot of things that you would list and then not list. Like they're not going to look for the value of your house. No one wants you to sell your home so that you can send your kid to school. They're not going to ask about how much is in your retirement account. So this is where using that helps and hints is going to be super helpful, because you don't want to say that you have all this money when you're not supposed to include the value of your home. Does that make sense? Okay, so this example, this is how I like to say, I want you guys to file as early as possible. So when I worked in financial aid, I would have a lot of different scholarship funds. And as all of you would send me FAFSAs, I could start awarding that money until it would run out. So this is why I want to say, apply as soon as you can so that you're the first one in line, but also so that you don't miss deadlines. So this is an example. If a student had high need and they applied on October 1st, they were eligible for all of this money, all of these different programs. But if they, they just didn't remember, or maybe they dragged their feet, they missed some deadlines, that same student, if they waited, missed out on a lot of money, okay? So these are my kids that thought they were going into the military, last minute said, I'm going to apply, I'm going to file the FAFSA. that same student could have got so much more money if they just would have applied earlier. So apply as soon as you can after October 1st. You want to be the first one in that door. After you hit submit on the FAFSA, you sent the information in. A couple of days later, the student's going to get an email saying, your student aid report's available to view. And what that means is you can log back into the FAFSA and get a one-page summary of everything you said on the FAFSA. A lot of times, the financial aid office will only look at your results, like the end result. They'll never look at all of the items that you listed. I can tell you every single year I had a student say they made $999,000, and I've yet to see one that has done that. Or maybe they would be applying for aid. So if I would see this, it would be an accident, but you guys can totally go look at that student aid report, and you'll see if you listed, you made $999,000. You'll see that. That'll stand out. That's a big one. If you made a mistake, you can go back in, make changes, and resubmit it, and all those schools will get an update. So 30% of everyone that files the FAFSA is selected for a process called verification. And a lot of people feel like this is, I'm being audited or I've done something wrong. Usually it means the student might have some financial need and they need to verify your information. So the school is required to document some answers, and every school looks a little bit different. They have different paperwork, but they may contact you and say, hey, we need W-2s, or can you fill out this form? Remember how I said you could link out to the IRS and pull that data in? If you guys use that process, you are very, very unlikely to get selected for verification. So remember how I said it's so important to do that? This is just another reason. Make sure you find out how the school is going to contact you to say they need information, because every school is different. Sometimes schools are using portals, they might use email, they might send you a letter. Sometimes this is the first thing you'll ever hear from the financial aid office. They want you to go through this verification process before they send you your award letter. So when you hit submit on the FAFSA, all of the answers that you put on there, your income, how many people live in your household, the age of your oldest parent, it all goes into this formula, and the end result is called your expected family contribution, which is named horribly. It's terrible. We're working on something different, and we're going to get the feds to come on board, I'm pretty sure. Basically, what this means is this is a measurement of your family's financial strength. All right, so imagine you guys are all going to the college, my financial aid office, and I needed to find out who had the most need and who had the least amount of need. This is a way of putting you guys in line. All right, certain programs will have different cutoffs. You have to have an expected family contribution below a certain amount. So this is a way of seeing if you qualify for certain programs. What it is not is how much you will have to pay to go to school. So remember, there are so many variables. Every school costs a different amount. You may live on campus or off campus, so your bill might be higher or lower. So this is just not what you have to pay. People who have a zero expected family contribution, if they're going to be a commuter, they may not have to pay anything or maybe very little. But if they live on campus, that bill just went up by about $9,000, so they probably would have to pay something. So it's just not, I don't want people to get very freaked out about this, unless it says $999,000. That's a cue for you to say, maybe I made a mistake on the FAFSA, I'm just going to go check out my student aid report. So we talked about the award letter. Find out how they're going to get it to you. At my former school, we would mail award letters to freshmen, and then we would email students every year after that to their student email address. A lot of schools are doing portal notification, so you can go online to see your award letter, but you also have to go and accept it online. There's also another step to this process. You get this award letter, you then need to tell the school, yeah, I do want to have that money. So there's another step to the process. So you want to make sure that you're following up. Make sure you go through that award letter with a fine-tooth comb. Make sure you know what every single line item means, because I've seen some beautiful award letters that, you just look at that bottom line and it's like $40,000, and you're like, oh, so much money. But then when you look at it, a lot of it's loans, all right? Make sure you know what every single thing on that award letter means and what's the requirement for it. So Like say you were going to school and you fill out your application for admissions and you say, I want to be in the nursing program. So then I get your FAFSA and I say, oh, I have a scholarship for a nursing program. Well, in the meantime, maybe you said, I think I'm going to be in the business program. I'll probably change my major. I just want you to know when you see that scholarship, what's tied to that. Maybe that scholarship might be for a certain program, and if you are really counting on that money, you want to make sure that that you're aware that you may not get it if you're not in that program. That was kind of a weird way to explain that. Is that, are you good with that? Awesome. Okay. So what might be on that award letter? It may have several different things. Scholarships and grants, we love that. That's free money. You do not have to repay scholarships and grants, and they may come from a bunch of different sources. The federal government. Maine State Grant, you have to file your FAFSA by May 1st. This year, I want to tell you, that deadline may change in the future because of the change to October 1 for the FAFSA opening. You have to go to a Maine school and be a Maine resident and be financially eligible for the Maine State Grant. So this may be another thing that's on that award letter. You might get some scholarships from the school itself. There might be outside scholarships that you got here at the high school. You might see work study on your award letter, and what that means is if you go to campus and you want to work on campus, you can get paid under the work study pot of money, okay? So that doesn't mean like there's a job there waiting for you. It means that you can apply for a job and then get paid out of that pot of money. But if you want to work on campus and you don't see work study funds on your award letter, go to the work study office and say, I want to work on campus. At my former school, we didn't have enough work study money to hire all of our positions, so we set aside some other money to pay students out of. So even if you don't see it, I'd love to see students work on campus. It gives you great resume builder. It shows your future employer you worked while you were in college, so you're good at time management. So do that. Go work in the financial aid office because those kids knew every single deadline. They had a bunch of people out there and saying, did you do your FAFSA? So, great place to work. Every student will see at least a student loan on their award letter. The direct subsidized or unsubsidized Stafford loan is a federal loan to the federal government. This is the best place to start. If you're going to need to borrow money, this has usually the lowest interest rate, but it also has great benefits. So like if you go into repayment, you're paying back your loans, you lose your job, you can then say, call your lender and say, I can't work right now, and they'll put you in a deferment status so you don't have to repay your loans for a few months. There's not many loans out there that will do that for you. But also, like, there's some loan forgiveness programs, very flexible repayment. So Stafford loan is the best way to go at first. There's also private loans out there. You won't see this on your award letter, but I just wanted to mention that private loans are like through Sallie Mae or through a bank. Discover. There's a bunch of different ones out there. This is not a government loan. It is credit-based. Student will need a cosigner. There's different repayment plans. If you're going to go this route, shop around because they're competing for you as a client, and they all have different ways to try to get you to be a customer. Like they have different interest rates, or maybe you can get 1% off if you're a good student and you have good grades. So do some shopping there. The school itself might do a loan for you. Just make sure if you're going to do a loan, I want to make sure that you know what is involved with taking out this loan. So I said I wanted to have you guys all apply for 5 schools, but I'll take 3. Say you applied to those 3 schools, you got award letters from all 3, and you're like, what does this mean to me? I got all these numbers, I don't know. In that green book, Paying for College, there's a worksheet like this, where you can figure out what the net cost is for 1 year by using your award letters. So if you look on the tuition and fees for, like, say, college A, B, and C, and you take away the grants and scholarships, that free money, that's going to give you the difference is going to be your net price. That means what it costs you to go to school for 1 year. So if you guys are all going to the same school, you're not all paying the same price, right? You might have different financial need, you might have merit scholarships. Everybody's paying a different price. So you're going to find out what that means to you. And then you can say, I really love this school, but it's twice as much as this other school, which is pretty nice. And this is a huge, huge thing for people to do to really make sure you know what it's going to cost you to go to school, right? Also, if you're going to borrow for that whole balance, I want you to realize if this is a really good return on investment for you. So basically, if it's going to cost me $100,000 to go to school for 4 years and get a degree, and on the back end, I'm going to get a job that's going to pay me $30,000 a year, you never want to borrow more than your first year's salary. That's a great rule to go by, because it's just so hard to repay. And if you can't, if that school costs too much, like we said earlier, it's almost 4,000 colleges in the United States. Let's find you another one. Or let's find you a cheaper route. Or let's see if we can bring that bill down. If you guys are going to be borrowing, I want you to borrow as little as possible. So you want to make sure that you are responding to schools as soon as possible. Make sure you let them know, like when you get that award letter, you want to accept it as soon as possible. Some schools have acceptance deadlines, so if you don't accept by a certain date, they may feel like you're not coming and they're going to give your money to someone else. But do let a school know if you're not planning on attending, because maybe there is another student at that school that could use the funds and you're holding it right now. So make sure you let the school know if you're not going to be going. So remember how I said we're going to use 2015 taxes on that financial aid application. You guys aren't, the seniors, are not going to start school until fall of 2017. So that is a huge window of time for something to change. Like, heaven forbid someone gets a divorce, maybe someone loses a job, maybe you have medical bills that you didn't have in the past. Maybe Graham moved in with you guys because she can't afford to live on her own or isn't well enough. Sometimes the FAFSA doesn't ask about certain things, or the school doesn't know about them. Contact the financial aid office and say, this is what's happening with me. And a lot of times you could do what's called an appeal, or sometimes it's called professional judgment, where you can say, my mom lost her job. They'll have you go through a process, and they'll reevaluate your aid to see if you can get more aid. So you want to make sure that you're reducing your expenses as much as you can. Are you guys taking dual enrollment or AP classes? You're basically, so this is college credit classes in high school that you can take right now that you don't have to take in college, okay? If you can do this, please do. A lot of times there's no cost or it's low cost to take these classes. Some schools, it may cost like $80 to take a class here. If you're going to go to another college, it may cost $1,500 for that same exact class. Would you rather take it here or pay for it in college? A lot cheaper. Many times it's a lot cheaper. I talked to a girl last week who's going to graduate from high school with 24 college credits. So her first year of college, done in high school. She only has to go to college for 3 more years. Great way to save some money. Make sure that you reduce that bill as much as you can. They're going to charge you for student health insurance. If you have your own health insurance, you can fill out a waiver and take that off. Maybe you're in the suites, the dorm rooms or the suites, and maybe you could live in the ghetto dorms, which are very nice. They're just not as nice as the suites. Maybe there's a less expensive dorm on campus you could live on. Or maybe you could not have the premium meal plan. Maybe we could cut that back a bit. Find any way that you can bring that bill down. There's some schools that will charge for a parking decal to every single student, but if you don't have a car on campus, you can waive that fee. So just find out how you can bring that down as much as possible. Books and supplies. For my stepson, we looked around, we did some shopping online. I like half.com, Chegg, Amazon. Look online, see if you guys can find your books as cheap as possible. One semester we saved $433 saved by shopping around for books. Half.com is like an eBay for books, so students will sell books to each other. I don't want to give anyone a heart attack that we spent that much money. He was an environmental science major, so his books were super expensive. So we had to do some shopping there. So what do you do when that award letter is just not enough? This is where savings is going to come into play. So if a student can save $1,000 before school starts, that's a huge chunk of money to take off the top of that bill. There's also tuition payment plans, which is the balance per semester, usually divided by however months are in the semester. If you can do this instead of a loan, maybe you won't have to pay interest and fees on it. There's a Parent Plus loan, which is a federal loan in the parent's name. It's credit-based, so if the parent is denied, the student can get more in their Stafford loan, sort of like a Plan B. And I put private loans again down at the bottom. I just don't want to see, if you guys have to borrow private loans, let's go as low as possible, because if you're already taking out your Stafford loans and then you add private loans on top of that, it's just super hard to pay off. So borrow as little as possible. So there's ways that you can save for college and hopefully make a little bit more money than if you had just a regular savings account. These are college investing plans that it's sort of like if you're planning for your retirement, you wouldn't put your money in a savings account because I make about 0.5% interest on my savings account. I put my retirement funds in an investment account, and you can do the same thing for saving for college. If that account makes money, if they make earnings, you don't have to pay taxes on the earnings if you use it for higher education. So this is a great way if you guys have some money to put away. Maine has the 529 plan. 529 means it's the code of IRS code, and that's why it's named it. The Next Gen program, I have a bunch of brochures out front. Maine residents can get a $200 grant just for opening an account because they want students to save for college. It's intended for younger people, but there is no age limit on it. But they'll also match the dollars that you put in, 50 cents on the dollar. So they'll do this up to $300 a year. So if a student is able to save $600, at the end of the year, Next Gen looks at the account and say, how much did you put in? They'll give you $300. That's the maximum grant. But you can get this every single year. So even when you're in college, you can still be doing this. It's a great way to guarantee yourself a grant. And keep in mind, this is your money. This isn't going away someplace. This is, if you started a 529 plan and you never went to college, you have a retirement account, which is not bad for an 18-year-old to have a retirement account. But anyway, this is just another way to save for school that is awesome. We talked a little bit about different benefits of having someone in college. When you guys go to file your taxes again, after someone's already been in college, tell your tax preparer that you have a student in college because there's amazing tax benefits for just being in school. There's all kinds of resources out there to help. You have amazing resources at this school. Ask the guidance counselors if you guys have questions. Call Thane. My business card is out front. I live in Bangor, so I can meet with you guys here. You're my shortest commute, so I would love to come here and help you if you have questions. We have a YouTube channel where we have short videos like how to set up an FSA ID or how to file a FAFSA. There's all kinds of resources out there too. The First Lady has I don't know if you guys have seen the Better Make Room campaign or Reach Higher. They came up with this texting campaign, so if you text the word college to 44044, you're going to get reminders of, hey, it's time to do your FAFSA, or hey, did you take your SAT yet? It's a great way to get some information, and it's great to get reminders. We have FAFSA labs all over the state where if you guys come and you need help with your FAFSA, we have people from colleges in the financial aid office that come volunteer at these events where we'll help you do your FAFSA, or even if you've already done it, you just want us to take a look at it, please come. We give away 3 $1,000 scholarships just for people who sign in out of all of these, anyone who comes to a FAFSA lab in Maine. So great place. The closest one to here is at United Technology Center. It's up on Hogan Road. It's by Eastern Maine Community College. So I'm going to be there on October 25th at 6. Please come if you need help, or if you are just doing that FAFSA, you wanted someone to be there with you the first time you did it. Or even if you're a pro, we don't care. We want to be able to help people. So if you leave here and you're saying, my head is spinning, I have no idea what she said, on the back of that Paying for College book, there is a checklist. There's a senior checklist. There's a junior checklist. So if you want to say, am I where I'm at? Have I done everything I'm supposed to do? This is a great way to just make sure that you've done what you should be doing right about now. These are our lovely ladies at FAME. If you guys can't reach me because I am on the road a lot and you need help like right away, call FAME. We're here to help. We are a free resource to you. They're fantastic. They have kids that have been through the financial aid process. They answer questions. There's nothing they haven't heard. Let's just say that. So please feel free to give them a call. But also like us on Facebook. We post scholarships a lot. We post reminders of things that are coming up or what you should be doing. To just let people just to share the information. That is all I have for you guys. Do you have any questions? Yes.
So that next gen account that you were talking about, if you put money in that, then you don't use it, can you gift it to somebody else?
Awesome question. Yes. So the question is, if you don't use your next gen account, if the 529 plan, if you don't use it, you can give it to a sibling. A sibling can use that. The grants that you get, you only get one grant per student, like certain types, so you can get the $200 and $300 a year, but you only get one of those per student. Yep. Yeah.
The informational session we were talking about on October 25th,
Yes.
if students already filled out the FAFSA on October 1st, would that session be good to like review to make sure everything is right?
You absolutely can. So if you've already done the FAFSA on October 1st, because you were listening to me where I said do this as soon as you can, you absolutely can have someone come take a look at it, sign in, and just get registered for a scholarship. Yep. Awesome question. Parents do not co-sign for a federal loan. It is not credit-based, so every single student is eligible to apply for a Stafford loan. The only way you couldn't get it is if you defaulted on the loan in the past. Yeah, good question. Someone up here have a question? Great questions. This is where I realized what I forgot to tell you. Yes.
You said that it's open up on October 1st to do as soon as you can, but if you haven't or aren't quite ready to file at the actual colleges, you still recommend doing that. Set stuff out to the colleges that you're.
Great question. Okay, so should you do the FAFSA as early as possible, even if you don't know what school you're going to, or you haven't applied, or you're just not sure? I recommend doing it. List all the schools that you are thinking about, and if you don't end up going to that school, it doesn't matter. That doesn't hurt you at all. So I recommend doing the FAFSA as soon as you can. List every school you're interested in, and you may never use it at that school, and that's fine. You don't have to be accepted to do the FAFSA. This is something that students generally apply for admission before because it's been in January, but you absolutely don't. Do your FAFSA, list all the schools you're thinking about.
Does that have anything to do with
A college outside of the United States? Yeah, so we, there's a lot of students I work with that are on the border, because I go to Northern Maine, who go to schools in Canada. And there are colleges out of the United States that do accept federal aid, but usually it's only the Stafford loan they can get. But right now, the American dollar is stronger than the Canadian dollar, so the schools in Canada are a lot cheaper. You know what? I would contact the school. I never like to say, no, don't do that, because the school may have something. Even the school I used to work at had scholarship money for international students. Maybe that school has money for an international student, because that's what you would be. Awesome questions. Thank you, guys. Anyone else? Yes?
So you were talking about how you need to tell the school whether you're going to accept the financial aid package or not. What if you haven't decided whether you are going to school or not, and that deadline comes? Are they flexible with that, or is it fast?
Great question. So should you accept the aid if you don't know if you're going to that school? My gut is I would accept the aid because you can always cancel it later. The school cannot make you take financial aid if you're not going there. Actually, they can't even process your aid. We would process a lot of aid for students, and then maybe at the last minute they say, it's too far away from home, not going. We'd have to cancel that aid. So if there's a deadline that you need to get that paperwork back, I would keep working at that, or at least call the school and say, this is what we're thinking. what do you advise? I mean, I always advise talking to the financial aid office because they're in your corner. You know, they're looking to help you. So they may have good advice, but my gut is saying I would go through with the process. Yep. Anyone else? If there's something you think of, please feel free to email me or call me. Like I said, my cards are out there. I'm happy to help you. Actually, there's 3 of us in this area that work for me, so we are more than happy to help you guys. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.